Hello and welcome back to another edition of Rainbow Room Publishing Live. I am your host and producer, Eddie S. Pierce Jr. And today I have a very special edition of a segment that I've started actually called the Rainbow Room Publishing Summer Reading List. And we're going to kick that off with what I feel to be very timely, very relevant for the time for the season. If you haven't noticed my rainbow colored horseshoe, for some reason, I don't know why I got the sticker and I just liked it upside down. But at any rate, we're going to start that summer reading list off with some work from individuals that identify as part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Y'all have to forgive me. I'm still learning, and it's a lesson to all of us that, even some of us in the community still got to get our eyes and our ideas and our heads around the make sure that all the inclusion is kept in. And so today, you noticed here, and I didn't even think about it, I'm matching, that's perfect. But today I wanted to talk with you and actually give you the opportunity to see me talk with the awesome writing team, Naomi Rivers, the authors of This, a simple, complex love story. This is a work that is very special to me for a number of reasons, and I actually did, do the reading of it. And by the time that this goes out to everyone, the two-page review and interview that I was able to conduct with this awesome writing team will have been circulated, so you may know a little bit about them. But this segment, this broadcast, is an opportunity for us to get to know more. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the authors themselves, Naomi and Rivers. How are you doing today, ladies?
Eddie, it's so good to see you.
It's so good, Eddie. It's good to see you.
This is amazing. This goes to what I say a lot of times about what I do and why I love to do what I do, because it turns into family reunions all the time. And you two are definitely family to me. Just to give everybody a little bit of background. So I met Naomi and Rivers, and they're going to explain the names in a little while. But I got the awesome opportunity to meet them while attending the Lighthouse Church of Chicago, of course, in Chicago, Illinois. Pastor Janie Frazier is the pastor, and it was, one of those cases where you meet great people and the season is just too short. So when you all reached out to me and said, hey, we've been looking at what we want to do with a book. We saw what you did with the publishing guide, and now here's a book. Will you check it out? And for the purposes of everybody that's watching and viewing, that conversation and relationship turns into this. But congratulations to you both.
Thank you so much. We consider it a privilege that we were able to use your guide, and it was very helpful. And it always makes it special when you know someone, right? When like we know Eddie wrote this, and we certainly, watched a lot of your videos to get hints and things like that. So I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but it was just helpful in knowing that we knew the person.
And here's the other piece. Right before you left for Texas, you shared a number of the publishing guides. And so there were a number of authors at the Lighthouse Church that were in different stages and different processes. And so there may be many more folks who utilize the publishing guide. So you went to Texas, we came here to Maryland, but it was one of the things that we packed up to keep with us as we were moving towards completing this novel.
Wow, that is so appropriate, because you keep saying Texas, and I'm looking at myself in this camera. That's why I keep forgetting to look in the camera, but I can see that I'm smiling as big as Texas because, for everybody that doesn't know, obviously I knew this information for some time, but then to hear it, and also really cute for anybody to know, this is actually our first time speaking to each other since the conversation started about the book. And But, we've had the emails and that sort of thing about, getting the review done. And of course, I sang my praises, still singing my praises. And I tell you, as I tell the viewers, that, I said it before and I'll say it again, it was a sincere joy. Take me and the publishing guide and all of it. The story is amazing. That's what we're going to get to reading in a second. But the story is amazing. The crafting of the word choices. I mean, when I looked at the book, and then you have the idea of, the way that I like to do the reviews and being able to coordinate with you all and use the imagery, use the book covers. It was like, wow, it was very full circle in the sense that my art helped you make your art, which helped me make some more art with your art. So very organic. And I'm hoping that, as you said, that the inspiration will continue, because hey, the Bible even says it, speaks to the idea that one person plants the seed, someone else comes along and waters the seed, and hopefully we will see more than, I think it was maybe 5 or 10 copies I left, more than 5 or 10 authors come out of just what you all have done, let alone taking me out of the equation. So thank you again.
Absolutely. I can tell you that there's at least 2, ours and Ronnie's Miracles book.
Oh, well, Ronnie came through. We did that together.
I know. So that's why I'm saying, so the seed was definitely planted.
Okay. Cool. So, hey, people, and you've known me for some time, and anybody that's watched this for any time, anybody that knows me knows that I can go on and on and on and on. And so we want to get to the meat of the program, which for me, part of that at least, is exposing people to the. All right, folks, and so we're back with the dynamic duo, as I call them, Naomi Rivers, the author and writing team and publishers, of this, A Simple, Complex Love Story. I love that it kind of even makes me want to look and point at it. It's that this is huge. I love what you guys did with the cover. You ladies did that. But without further ado, I'm going to bring up Rivers, who is going to give us a summary of the work. And then from there, she will bring in Naomi, who will read an excerpt of this wonderful work. All right, so I'll be back with y'all in a second. Rivers, it's on you.
Sure. So this, A Simple, Complex Love Story. Here's the synopsis. Baltimore's iconic Inner Harbor is known for its historic port, picturesque beauty, and tourist attractions. Can it also be the perfect setting to make a love connection? Jasmine, a pragmatic social worker, struggles to keep her long-term relationship intact. T is an art teacher by day and an elusive artist by night. She gave up on relationships a long time ago. When the two meet at the harbor by chance, their unexpected chemistry challenges their ideas about life and expectations for love. But does love have to be complicated? Or is it possible to simply live in the moment and see where the unexpected leads? So over to you, Naomi.
So I'm going to read an excerpt from this, A Simple, Complex Love Story. It's actually chapter 7. And in chapter 7, or at least prior to it, they have already met. T and Jasmine have met. In romance, you talk about the meet cute. And so that has already occurred. And this is just a little bit later in the book. Smiling with a hint of apprehension and looking her square in the eyes, I extended my right hand. Hi again. My name is Teresa, but my friends call me T. She reached for my hand and asked with a slight grin and one raised eyebrow, so what shall I call you? As I made a mental note to self about the softness of her hands, I replied, well, if your dog's instincts are correct, you'll fall into the friend category in no time. So you think you know a little something about dogs? No, not really. I know very little about dogs, but I hope she, the dog owner interjected emphatically, excuse me. I hope she likes me since this is the second time she's attacked me. Come on now. Attack is kind of melodramatic, don't you think? Attacked, knocked to the ground, jumped on. I said I knew what I experienced. She interrupted impatiently. Okay, so this is not how I imagined our second meeting. So, you've been thinking about me? I asked, unable to wipe the silly grin off my face and curious as to why my stomach was fluttering. Coco barked before she could respond. I didn't say that. Maybe not explicitly, but you just admitted you imagined meeting me again. And I said, singing like a schoolgirl. Your dog confirmed it. I gave her a sly grin. Whatever, she exclaimed and rolled her eyes. Testy, aren't we? All right, look, let's start over. I'm T, I said, extending my hand primarily to touch her again. What's your name? Jasmine. And this is Coco. Hi, Coco, I said, scratched her head. Haven't we met somewhere before? Her tail wagged feverishly as she barked in reply. Jasmine, I should have known. You've been blowing through my mind like a summer breeze. What? Nothing, I said, surprised that I even said that thought out loud. You come to the harbor often? Not as much as I should, she answered. What do you mean? I mean I should move my body more often. You know, at least walk more and consistently do strength training. Every time I start lifting weights, I wake up sore the next day, so I stop. I mumbled. The imagery of Jasmine's body moving and me feeling Jasmine's body moving and rubbing her sore muscles lodged in my mind. Though she mentioned she wasn't very satisfied with her current body build, I personally appreciated it. The ample curves on a 5'1.5" frame were in all the right places, and I imagined how pleasurable it would be to cuddle up next to such a warm, inviting creature. She interrupted my lustful thoughts as we walked slowly together. You seem to like running. I don't know that I like the act of running so much as I like how it makes me look and feel. It was Jasmine's turn to be inarticulate. I couldn't help but smile. She found her words again and asked, so what else do you like to do for fun? I read, I paint, listen to music, take pictures, I said. What kind of music do you like? My taste is quite eclectic, I responded. Really? Yeah, really. Why do you sound so surprised? I wanted to know. No reason, really. I guess I just wasn't expecting that. So, R&B? Of course, I said. Classical, she continued. Yes. Pop? Some, I responded, amused by her interest in my musical taste. Hard rock? Not so much, but here's one for you. What? Jasmine wanted to know. I love country music, I said with a smile. Country? Like hee-haw? Merle Haggard country? She asked while laughing. No, silly, I said, bumping her gently with my shoulder. More like Shania Twain, Rascal Flatts, Martina McBride, Trisha Yearwood country. Oh, you were serious? Of course I was. Interesting, she said. I didn't know what quite to make of that, but left it alone. She continued her inquiries. I have at least 20 questions. Oh, no. If money were not a factor, what would you be doing with your life? I'm actually doing it, I replied. Really? She asked with more surprise in her voice. I smiled. Yes, really. You find that hard to believe? I just don't meet many people that say they're actually doing their life's work. I love making art, and I enjoy teaching. Most days, that is. I would even make art if I didn't get paid for it. Wow, Jasmine seemed impressed. And if I could teach without being subjected to administrative nonsense, like countless unnecessary meetings, grumpy parents, and new requirements stemming from the president's new No Child Left Behind Act, it would be ideal. That aside, I guess I am kind of lucky to do what I like and get paid for it. You're right about that. What about you? What would you be doing given the chance, I asked. Well, I like what I do, but if money were no object, I would be a florist. A florist? It was my turn to be surprised. Yeah, there's so many possibilities and varieties and colors and combinations of flowers and plants, Jasmine rattled off. That sounds a lot like painting, I observed. Yes, I guess it kind of is, doesn't it? Something else we have in common, I guess. Creative energy. Not that I needed another reason to adore Miss Jasmine, but that little nugget added icing on the cake. Change of subject, she exclaimed. Okay. How long have you been growing your locks? About 4 years now. Why, I asked. I thought about locking my hair once, but when I found out they are just as much maintenance as getting my hair permed, that idea quickly faded. That made me laugh. I hear you. I don't think of them as a lot of work, though. I have a great loctician who doesn't take all day to do what she needs to do. That's a blessing. Do you always wear them up? I do when I'm running or when it's bloody hot. The extra weight and heated too much on my neck, I reply. For the next hour and a half, Jasmine and I walked along the sidewalk, talking like we were old friends again. Her attentiveness, apparent interest, and our commonalities were refreshing. A much-needed pace from the normal blah, blah, blah. Before I knew it, we were standing near her car, and it seemed like neither one of us was in a hurry to leave. Hey, we both said it after a pregnant pause. You first, I said. No, you, Jasmine Canner. I was, it's just that we seem to enjoy each other's company and all, and if you're not busy, Teresa, she said, ending my obvious clambering. Yes, I was extremely embarrassed. Just spit it out. Okay. I took a deep breath. There's an art exhibit next Friday downtown. I was wondering if you'd like to go. Maybe have dinner afterwards. I'd love to, Jasmine said, smiling and without hesitation. Really? Great, I said, feeling relieved and excited at the same time. What time should I pick you up? At the mention of time, she looked down at her watch. Oh, shit. Excuse my language. Suddenly, she was in a hurry. That won't be necessary, she said nervously while putting the dog in the back seat on the passenger side of the car and dashing over to the driver's side, all in one fluid motion. She quickly handed me a card as if that were planned. Here's my cell number. Call and leave the address and I'll meet you there. What time? 7. 7 o'clock is fine, I said, trying to read her hurried thoughts. So I look forward to seeing you then. Yeah, same here, she shouted as she started her engine, not waiting for the car to warm up, and pulled away. And with that, all that lingered of Jasmine was the nicely printed business card in my hand and rampant thoughts of the next time I'd see her.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Wow. Somebody just, I can't remember who it was. I guess I was looking at an old interview of mine, and I had the same emotion that they had where, you read the words, you take everything in, but it is still a whole nother experience to hear it read by the author. And let me just say, look, y'all both, y'all have awesome radio voices. And you know how people used to crack that bad joke. That don't mean that y'all not cute, because y'all are. And we'll kind of get into a little bit, but actually I'll throw it out there now for anybody that is a little confused, and we'll actually kind of get into this later. But one of the reasons that we're not using imagery is because of the profession and just the need for privacy that these two awesome writers have. And so that's why we're using the imagery from their logos, which I think are beautiful as well as that book cover. As I was showing it, I just kept falling in love with it all over again. But yes, amazing, just amazing work all the way around. Before I get into, a couple of things I wanted to get into, I just wanted to start in with, we talked about, what in a sense guided you or inspired you to actually take the story and make it into a book. But where did the inspiration for the story itself come from?
So the story itself the process started with us wanting to connect with one another when we first started dating. Wow. And one would write and the other would, it was kind of like improv. The other would then build on what the first person wrote. And over time, we recognized that we had a lot of words on the page, and we actually had a novel. So then it became, how do we really turn it into, as Naomi mentioned, to have the meet cute in it, have the right pull and the right impact, and then the story arc, and we worked on that. And quite frankly, when we were there in Chicago, we were at an author event at a bookstore in Evanston, Bookends and Beginnings, and we met an editor there. And little did we know that editor was both a developmental and, help me out, Naomi, a copy editor.
Copy editor.
And she really did a lot of work with us in helping us make the story make sense in a way that and she worked with us. We hear these stories about some editors, kind of slash things, and the authors feel like they're not a part of the process, but it wasn't that way with our editor. She was very gentle, but very forceful. Naomi mentioned that when she first went through it, there were so many edits and comments and so forth and so on that she felt like she was in grade school with all of the markings on the manuscript, but it was extraordinarily helpful. And so obviously we took it to another level, and then we had to decide whether or not, do we want to pursue a traditional publishing? Do we want to self-publish? And, go through those decisions.
Excellent. Wow. Anything you would add to that, Naomi?
So it's funny, and here's where the couple of us comes out. Rivers said, that it was a process to stay connected. I started with, let's write a book. And we would go back and forth. And so I don't think she was thinking that I was serious about let's write a book, but I thought, we can write a book. We can do this. But then over 20 plus years and multiple deployments and what have you, she's right. We had, when we first gave the packet to the editor, there were already over 200 pages. And so it was pretty hefty, and getting the document, the manuscript to her, and it was good. It was a surprise that we got there, but being in Chicago, meeting authors, participating in different events was one of the things that really kind of helped it come to fruition.
That wow. I'm going to use that word a lot today. But just, it's one thing to see art that I feel is remarkable, to know artists that are remarkable. But as someone else just recently reminded me too, sometimes there's a lot more that you gain when you get to know the authors on any sort of level. And to this process is just another thing I had to put in that remarkable category that, I've heard and I've experienced even myself. I don't have a set process. I wish I did. God, life would be so much easier. But, I've never heard anyone else describe that it was so, I think you all mentioned this to me once or twice too, that, I get a lot of compliments about my art being very intertwined with my faith, with my spirituality. But to hear how it was intertwined and fed and is now giving back to your relationship, that is amazing. Your book is an embodiment of all of that, and that is just so dope. That is so dope, beyond dope. I gotta move on because I will just be all day with that. So we talked a little bit already about the self-publishing, and especially one thing I wanted to look at too when we talked about, you being a writing team. Where would you say that, this is a perfect way to put this. Get ready. Naomi, where do you feel that Rivers shines in this process, and vice versa? Rivers, where do you feel that Naomi shines in this process? But we'll start with Naomi.
I think Rivers shines because she is so organized and detailed, and she just kind of hones in, and she really makes me better, because I'll write and say, okay, this is good, I like this, and there have been times that she's looked at it and she goes, this is boring, this is boring. And by the time the editor marks your stuff up, and by the time your spouse, your significant other, tells you you're boring, you're like, oh this is hard. This is really hard, but it was good. It was good because I think it made me better. It made me want to be better, if nothing else, but to keep up with her.
I wasn't saying that you were boring. The words on the page,
writing.
the words on the page needed a little bit of sauce.
This the process, people. This the process.
So part of and so the thing I would say that Naomi in this writing process does well is she gets it down on the page. So like the thing that stands in the way of a lot of people writing their, hey, I'm gonna write a memoir, and they never do it. The thing about it is having the discipline to do it. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that Naomi does very well is she's not afraid to get it on the page, and whether it has sauce or not. And so then that is something, and that's how we work well together and bounce off of one another. She gets it on the page, massages a little bit, and then, I then get down. I'm the sort of, very meticulous one, and gets down into the details in terms of what were they thinking? What were they smelling? What was the weather like? What were they, what were they feeling? And, those kinds of things. And so I think we work well together in that regard.
Wow. I love, if I were to close my eyes and if I didn't have the context of thinking about the book and the two of you writing the book, you're describing a marriage, you're describing a relationship across the spectrum, that ebb and flow, those opposites that attract, so to speak, but I usually more so go with the adage of the complementary attributes of each other. And, I found myself as I was reading it and knowing what I knew about the two of you and knowing that you were a writing team and knowing to a degree who did what. There were different points in time where it was kind of like, is this her voice or her voice? But I love that there is no separation. I love that there's no separation, and sincerely pray that always be the case for you in your relationship, whatever else happens with the writing. But just amazing, phenomenal. I just know this is going to be so inspirational for so many other people. And as I get, even get to that idea, what would you say for each of you was the most important lessons that you had to learn? Give me at least one. If you got more than one, go for it. But the most important lessons that you felt that you learned in this process.
I think for me, the lesson was to do it, to get it done, and not let people kind of hinder that process. I also wanted to make sure the other lesson is, we talk about role models. We talk about who needs to hear what story. But I think everybody needs to hear a love story. And it's even better when that love story looks like somebody like you. A couple of years ago, Hallmark did not have any folks of color as part of the story. And then eventually they started having folks of color as the sidekick. And it's really only been in the last few years that the lead person has been a person of color. And even less time that person of color has maybe had a same gender orientation. So that whole process and society kind of catching up, that affects all of us. And just knowing that women of color fall in love, sometimes it's complicated, sometimes it's simple, but we fall in love and we want a love story, preferably a happy ending, but if not, that's fine too. But just making sure that it's reflected in our book and in our writing.
Excellent.
And I would add that one of the things we tried to do, and I think that you picked up on, Eddie, was that we really tried to make it authentic. Like, we wanted, when people read it, we wanted them to, be able to envision or hear themselves in the dialogue, in the relationships, in how we relate to one another. And that's universal, not just, it's not just, an LGBTQ story, right? Yes, the two protagonists are women, But quite frankly, we've had friends that have read it that, are not in our community, and they enjoyed it because it's a people story. It's about people living their lives and just having experiences.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head. When you talk about, the things that just really captivated me, kept me going, kept me involved, and it happened very, very early on. So good job to anybody that can hook you in the beginning. But yeah, I'm always looking at the idea of universal truths, universal themes, and it's interesting, and you guys ladies can speak to this, where I kind of have to embody both all of the time. But there's that writer part of me that says, hey, I want as many people who can relate to this as possible to relate to it just for the sake of art. And then there's the publisher that says, hey, we got to sell these books. So everybody got to find themselves in this story. And that's something that you did, amazingly well. If I were to switch some pronouns and some names and a few things, I mean, it applies to anyone and everyone. There are a number of things that jump out at me. Being that person that is in love with music. So whenever I saw a jingle or a reference to the old, I think you did the old ketchup, Heinz ketchup commercial, I think was in there somewhere. The pop culture, it gave me things that were both relevant today and classic and timeless. So it covers that whole spectrum. The idea of the scenery, honestly, I was kind of in my head as I was listening to you both, and it was almost like I was teaching, which I do teach online, and I was just kind of checking off setting, yes, universal truths, yes, and do we have all of the senses engaged? Yes. The hardest part and the most important thing is put something on the page, yes. Then come back and clean it up. Yes, so just even more kudos, another plus on top of that A+ I already gave you all for your efforts and for this work. That is amazing. I wanted to definitely ask, before we get up out of here, what's next? What are the things are you all planning, anticipating, hoping for? You never know who's listening. I'm already listening. You see, I love to help with this. And thank you too for being one of my clients as far as the PR efforts go. But I'm ready. So what y'all got next? Let us know.
So we'll have a bonus chapter to this coming out very soon. And that's one of those things that, Naomi, of course, is, she sent it to me and she's like, it's ready for your details. And so it's in my court right now. So that should be coming out really, really soon, for our subscribers, to our newsletter, which, you can subscribe on our website, which is naomiriversbooks.com. And so our subscribers get first dibs on things. And then also we have the reader magnet for the next book. Of course, it doesn't have a title yet, but it certainly will further the story and sort of develop some of the characters that were on the periphery in this. So we're excited about that, and we're working on that as well. So we have a target as to when we're supposed to be finished with that. But of course, as self-publishers, that's an internal target, right? And so that provide that open-ended milestone, if you will, because there's no other publisher that's sort of, breathing down your neck, right? So it's an internal pressure. But you gotta have to hold yourself to those commitments as well if you want to continue to be out there, because we do have people that are like, hey, we loved it, what's next?
And we want more. We want more people out there like that, and we want more of them saying too, yeah, what's next?
That's right.
Let's see. So then I guess where I want to kind of take it to next is, any advice that you have based off of your experiences that the two of you would offer to those aspiring authors out there, whether their aspirations include being published or not?
I think the first one is finish whatever you're writing. And it's funny, Eddie, we talked about this. I was asking you questions about, the next phase, and you were like, did you finish the book? Well, no, not yet. Not yet. But I want to talk about, like, finish the book. Just finish the book. And so, I had to take that to heart, because someone else said you can't edit an empty page. So you have to keep writing. You have to get it. You have to get it on paper, and then you can kind of massage it a little bit. The other thing I'm gonna say is don't take no for an answer. There's a group of folks who kind of think that the rejection letters are a badge of honor, and you should stay where you are until someone else picks you up to kind of move your manuscript or your novel forward. And that person just may be you. If you wait for that magic number of 80 rejection letters, and somebody gets at least 3 to 4 months to give you an answer, that's a long time to wait. So write, finish the book, and get connected with the community in order that's going to help you again get your book published.
I love that you mentioned that, and I'm sorry to interrupt really quick, Rivers, but yeah, I remember hearing the joke that a lot of writers would say how they could wallpaper their apartments
That's right.
with their rejection letters, and that's a lot of rejection letters. That's a lot of waiting for people to possibly say no. In this day and age, in my opinion, where you've proven it, moreover, on top of me, attempting to prove it, that there are ways and other mechanisms to get it done. It's just a matter of, looking at your resources, which includes the people in the community around you. Anything that you would add, Rivers? Any words of encouragement?
Yes, I would say also to get out and meet people that are trying to do or that have done what you're trying to do. Resources like Rainbow Room Publishing are great. And so, you can tap into that network. You can join Facebook self-publishing groups or publishing groups, author groups on both IG and Facebook, and what is it, Evite. I mean, all of those Meetup, all of those sites have groups that perhaps are people that have commonalities, and you can bounce ideas off of them. If nothing else, they are people that understand what you're going through. The actual, that may have tips in terms of how do you get over, how do you develop the discipline to write, and get it done, and those kinds of things. And so for us, it was just helpful in reading other people's ideas, other people's challenges, and taking those on board, and perhaps learning from people's mistakes and things like that. So find your community, find your people, and as Naomi said, just write.
And I'm going to add you all to that list. I mean, I don't, you may be in a similar place that I was in with my first work almost 12 years ago, where the plan was just to publish my book, one book. And somewhere in there, a guy said, hey, you pulled this off and you need a company. Okay, now you have a company, and now you have a vehicle for other people. Maybe the same will be said for you all. And if that's not one of the plans, we do know, based on this interview and everything else that we're going to see coming soon, that you all know the process, you know how to get it done. And so I would definitely count you all in that list of resources. So last thing, and perhaps the most important thing for a lot of people, where can they get this awesome book?
So our book, you can get signed copies from our website, NaomiRiversBooks.com, but also it's available at a variety of retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the rest of it. If you go to books2read.com, the number 2, books2read.com // this, a simple, complex love story. and you can see a variety of retailers that it's available.
Excellent.
Also, we also want to point out indie bookstores. Please support your indie bookstores as well.
Definitely. Well, ladies, I thank you so much for the time. And I already know that, just the way that we kind of, well, we're not going to say we, but God brought us back into each other's circles and spaces, that we're going to do it again soon, whether it be in this format, formal or informal. But definitely know that we will be in touch, and that I'm going to keep doing my part to help get the message out about this great book. Thank you all so much for your time. And, God bless and good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you for this platform.
Thank you.
Anytime. All right, folks. So as I said, that was our first part of our summer reading segment, the Rainbow Room Publishing summer reading segment, the Pride edition. I want to thank Naomi Rivers, the amazing, talented, dynamic duo, for taking the time out with us today, for treating us to that awesome excerpt of this amazing work, and for all of their advice, inspiration, and those nuggets of wisdom that I hope you all find educational. As always, I'm going to send you out with my favorite sign off: love infinitely, peace, and blessings.